รายการต่อไปนี้เป็นรายการทั่วไปสามารถรับชมได้ทุกวัย
สนับสนุนโดยแลกเงินด้วยบัตรเครดิตกสิกรไทยเที่ยวก่อนจ่ายทีหลังไม่มีค่าธรรมเนียมผ่อนชำระได้จากธนาคารกสิกรไทย
สวัสดีค่ะเมื่อสัปดาห์ที่แล้วเราได้พูดคุยกับดร.ภาสิ ซอลเบิร์กนักการศึกษาชั้นนำของฟินแลนด์เกี่ยวกับวิธีคิดที่ไม่เหมือนใครของระบบการศึกษาฟินแลนด์ซึ่งได้รับการยอมรับว่าดีที่สุดแห่งหนึ่งในโลกวันนี้เราจะพูดคุยกับดร.ภาสิกันต่อเกี่ยวกับแง่มุมต่างๆของการเรียนการสอนในฟินแลนด์โดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งการให้ความสำคัญกับอาชีพครูซึ่งเป็นอาชีพที่ได้รับการยกย่องอย่างสูงในสังคมฟินแลนด์ค่ะก่อนที่จะมีการประเมินผลนักเรียนร่วมกับนานาชาติหรือพีซ่าครั้งแรกในปี 2000 มีหลายประเทศที่ได้ชื่อว่ามีระบบการศึกษาที่ดีของโลกเช่นเยอรมนีอังกฤษฝรั่งเศสอเมริกาและรัสเซียแต่แล้วในการทดสอบครั้งนั้นฟินแลนด์กลับเป็นประเทศที่ทำคะแนนได้ดีอันดับที่ 1ด้วยระบบการศึกษาที่มีเอกลักษณ์ของตัวเองไม่เหมือนใครปัจจุบันฟินแลนด์ยังคงยึดมั่นในแนวทางการศึกษาของตัวเองท่ามกลางขบวนการปฏิรูปการศึกษาระดับโลกที่ประเทศต่างๆพยายามทำหลักสูตรให้เป็นมาตรฐานเดียวกันเพื่อรองรับการแข่งขันในการทดสอบนานาชาติ
What's the difference between Finnish education system compared to, say, other internationally accepted system like the British system, American, or even the German system?What makes you stand out?
I think there are a couple of things. One is definitely this kind of a very individual focus on children, and you know, seeing that the children have rights as well, just like adults have. That they have rights in the school. They have rights to have breaks and time for themselves. They have rights to be children. They have rights to be different. That the school system is not trying to squeeze them into a kind of a similar thing that you see in all of those systems that you mentioned. Then the other one, I think the big difference is that we trust our people much more than they do in England, for example, or the United States. And people by mean children and teachers and everybody. That we kind of build the whole schooling around trusting, the importance of trust. And we know, and you know that you know if you trust your children or if you trust your colleagues, they often do better things than if you don't. If you try to control everything and put the limits and kind of a frame. So that's why it's a very important thing. Third difference is that all those education systems that you mentioned are much more driven by kind of a fixed outcomes or results or standards, if you wish. That there's a kind of expectation that everybody has to meet and then we work towards that. And that's one way to do that. But in Finland we have again much more personalized, individualized approach to this. That every child, every student, they normally set their own targets and own levels of progress. And then we tolerate much more kind of a diversity and differences that some children may progress much faster and some people need much more time to do that. And our school system is helping everybody to accomplish those things. Unlike those that you mentioned, often do not have those services for children who need more time. Germany, for example, is tracking children very early on into 3 different pathways based on what the young people seem to be when they are 10 years old. But we don't do that. We kind of try to keep everybody together and then help them and let them be who they are.
Do you fail students? Like if they cannot pass this subject, then they have to retain in this grade. Or at university level, if they cannot pass one subject, do you somehow help them and then allow them to graduate?
No, we don't fail anybody. Everybody is progressing. Practically everybody is progressing from year to year within the school system automatically. So we used to have a system. When I went to school, we have about 25% of my age cohort had to repeat the grade at least once in the school, but not anymore. So we have done away deliberately the whole it's a kind of a structural element of failing students. And we are very careful with this. We are saying that the students are not failing. It's a system that is failing the students, and that's why we have done this away. But if you have a grade repetition system that most countries do have, it's very expensive, and it's individually. In most cases, it's very harmful for the children. That most of those who have to repeat a grade or who fail in a class, they will not continue studies further, and they become very expensive individuals for the society because of the lack of education, lack of employment, health, some other problems. So we have a system where everybody will be promoted and brought together with everybody else.
But if someone fails one subject in class, then how can that person progress onto something more difficult in the higher class if you don't somehow fail them and make them really learn that subject?
Those are very extreme cases because you may fail in mathematics, for example, but your talent, you may be very skilled in some other fields. And that's why, when I was talking about the whole child, kind of a holistic approach, it's a very important to look at young people like this. If you ask who is successful, who's good in school, what do you mean by that? In most countries, you look at reading and math and maybe something else. In Finland, if you say that, are you good in school or who is good in school, we look at all sorts of things like arts and sports and your social skills and many other things. And only then, if you are poor in everything, that is very rare, then you can say that you're not a good student in school. But there are very few people who would be very bad in everything. There's always something that they can do that their passion is, and I think we have to respect those things and also tolerate those facts that everybody doesn't have to be good in everything, and that's why I think our system is built in a way that it's able to tolerate those things, that you don't need to be good in all of those things. But you need to be good in something, and then you can move on.
So it's a totally stress-free system then, education in Finland?
If you ask me, I would say that it's a very much looks like that, but if you ask young people, we have a lot of teenagers who say that there's a lot of stress in the school. Particularly those students who have higher ambitions and they want to do well and they want to go to study certain things at the university, they have to work hard. But compared to many other systems, I think it's a not only stress-free, but it's also fear-free school, where we try to make sure that no child ever come to school so that they have to be afraid of failing or not being able to do what the school is expecting to do or something like this.
ปัจจัยหนึ่งที่ทำให้ระบบการศึกษาของฟินแลนด์ประสบความสำเร็จอย่างมากคือการให้ความสำคัญกับอาชีพครู ครูเป็นอาชีพในฝันของเด็กหัวกะทิของฟินแลนด์และเป็นอาชีพที่ได้รับการยกย่องอย่างมากในสังคม
How do you attract the brightest people to become teachers in Finland?
We actually don't do that. That we try to find not the brightest people, but the right people. It's a misunderstanding of the Finnish system when people say that we are recruiting, that we have a luxury of recruiting the best and the brightest in the teaching. We are not doing that. We are deliberately trying to find the best people, the most suitable people to train them to become teachers. Let me give you one example. There may be somebody who is not good in school, like I was one of those, because I had many other things to do. I had a band. I was passionate about music, and I was doing sports, and I was coaching children in the sport. So I spent a lot of time doing all sorts of other things, and I was not good in school, but I definitely wanted to become a teacher. So I was able to convince the people who are recruiting students to teacher education programs that I have those skills that are essential when you want to work as a teacher through my hobbies that I've been doing. So every year we recruit a significant number of those students who are successful in teacher education programs from those young people who would not fall in the category of being the best and the brightest, but they have something else with them that it promises them to be a good teacher. And I think this is absolutely critical thing, that we should not talk about teaching as something that is only for those who are the best and the brightest academically. because there's not really a strong link between being academically talented and being a good teacher. And if we think like this, we have to think again, because it's not true.
So who is a good teacher?
Somebody who has a calling, who can explain why I want to teach. And this is always the question that we ask from our teacher candidates when they're applying to teaching. What is a good teacher? Why do you think that you're a good teacher? Why do you want to teach? So people have to be able to explain what is driving me into the teaching. Then of course the other criteria is that somebody who really understands that people are individuals, that they come to your class or your courses with their individual differences and intentions and interests, and that you have to be able to see your class as a collection of individuals rather than seeing a class as a collective. And then of course you have to have the basic value foundation or ethics of educator, somebody who wants to do good things for others. My philosophy, I was teaching many years, and I had a very simple philosophy when I tried to be a good teacher, and it was that I want all of my students to be better than I am in the field, in mathematics and science that I was teaching. So I really worked hard to help them to access my knowledge and skills, because that's the only way that we can, as teachers, that we can improve the world.
Teacher is a highly regarded profession in Finland. Where does this value come from in society?
I think it partly comes from the fact that we are a very small nation. We are about 6 million people. We speak the language that nobody else understands. So if we want to be part of the world or communicate with others, we have to learn other languages. It comes from the fact that Finland has always been between the great Eastern power and the Western nations there. So we kind of, in order to survive, without any natural resources or oil or gas or anything like this, we have to, it's a natural that we think that if we want to be anything in the world and survive, we have to be smart. And we have to kind of educate our minds and young people. So putting all those historical, cultural, geographical, also economic things together, and if you take those facts and you sit down as a politician or the president or parent in Finland and said, so what is the best strategy forward for the nation? Nobody will leave the meeting room without saying that we have to educate everybody. So that's where the kind of a need for education comes from. And it's a very historical thing. It's been there for centuries in Finland, that we need to be educated in order to be heard, in order to survive and remain and be like everybody else. So Finland is not like Sweden or England or Germany or America. We are small and much different, and that this kind of a realization that we are different gives education such an important role.
Each country have their own education system,
Right.
and they will derive at the results differently. Which countries you also think are good models as well?
Countries are good models for different countries, but in general, if I had to go somewhere now and see what good education looks like, I would go to Canada. Canada is one of my favorites. It's a very multicultural, very dynamic society. Many places like Alberta or British Columbia, Ontario in Canada are very interesting places in terms of what's happening in education. The Netherlands is another place in Europe, a very diverse, multicultural, dynamic society that is doing good things. Some of the places here, Singapore certainly is one place where we can learn and see interesting things going on. I just came from China. I saw very, very interesting schools there. Interesting schools you find everywhere. You have wonderful schools here in Thailand. You have beautiful schools in Vietnam, or you can go to Australia, any place. But the systems are different things. And to run and improve the system is a very different process than build a good school.
You mentioned Canada and Singapore. Do you see any similarities between the two education systems?
In Singapore and Canada? Absolutely, yeah. For example, good example is if you look at the teacher policy in both of those very different places, Canada and Singapore or Finland. We all share the same principles in teaching. Teaching is a high profession. All the teachers must be prepared and trained in the universities. Everybody, if you're a teacher in a school, you need a lot of support and continuous development and support in your work. Those are all shared things in these high-performing good education systems.
ท่ามกลางความเปลี่ยนแปลงของสังคมโลกที่รวดเร็วโดยเฉพาะด้านเทคโนโลยีรูปแบบการศึกษาหนึ่งที่มาแรงคือการศึกษาที่เน้น STEM ซึ่งเป็นนโยบายของสหรัฐอเมริกาเพื่อเพิ่มขีดความสามารถการแข่งขันของประเทศโดยเด็กนักเรียนจะเน้นการเรียนรู้วิทยาศาสตร์เทคโนโลยีวิศวกรรมและคณิตศาสตร์แบบบูรณาการเพื่อนำไปใช้แก้ปัญหาในชีวิตจริงและประกอบอาชีพในอนาคต
What should be the goal for education in the 21st century? Some people say critical thinking, innovation. We should teach children more about STEM. What's your opinion on this?
It's true that you often hear those things, and in a way, I think that the problem solving and communication and collaboration, all those things that people often call as the 21st century skills, they have been with us forever. And the school has been done those things for many years. STEM, as I said, I used to teach math and science, so I'm all for STEM. But if there's anything like this, I would like to add the A there to call the STEAM, that is arts, because I think that anything that will kind of emphasize the stronger focus on subjects, whether it's math or science or history, in the future is not probably doing right things. So I think that the future school will be much more a place where you integrate things, where the children are taught and guided how to understand the world through the multidisciplinary kind of interdisciplinary approach without teaching separately different subjects. And that's often the kind of a problem with the things like STEM and other things that we kind of think that the mathematics is important, what it is, but this is not what children will need in the future. I think, as I said earlier, that if we are moving seriously towards having a school that is able to help all the children to understand where their own passion and talent is, I think that's what I would call truly a 21st century schooling.
What would you say to students who today think anything I want to know, I can just Google? I don't need to learn or be so stressed out about school.
I would say you're right. If you're interested in information, that's what the Google and internet is for. The internet is very good in giving you information very fast and in much richer way, much more interesting way than the school can do that. If you go to school and ask a piece of information from the teacher, what you are likely to hear is an answer like this. You ask the Google, you not only get the answer, but you get the videos and articles and everything that you can read as much as you like. So that's right. But and that's why the school should not try to do what the internet and Google are so good at, because the school can never compete with those. But we should ask things like, so what are the things that you need in order to make sense out of those things that you can Google and you can find. For example, the critical thinking. That Google is very poor in helping you to understand whether this information that you get there, whether it's true or not. And that's something that the school is again much better than that. Or the Google doesn't really tell you anything about what to do with that information. What is it good for? And this is again something that the school can help you to think and use it in your other. So that's why I think we have to, with this absolutely essential question, we have to ask ourselves that, so what should the school do now when the internet and technology is doing so much more? And I can tell you one thing, 10 years from now, we will have teachers, we have machines, intelligent machines doing exactly what the teachers are doing right now, teaching children, speaking, talking, answering questions, all those things. So this is only going to get worse in terms of how much the old school is able to respond to the new realities. So we have to be really careful about those things.
What's the lesson that we should learn from the Finnish education system?
There are many lessons that can be kind of considered here, but my favorite one here is the again remind teachers and parents and authorities, everybody, that children should be children, and that's if we take the childhood away from our young people, and we are doing that so many ways now, that we are insisting them to go to school earlier, and we are requiring them to work harder every day, and having higher and higher grades and marks. That's all, in other words, stealing the childhood from our children, young people. And so that's one of these things that Finland is doing really well, and it's a kind of a landmark of Finnish education, is that we allow young people to be who they are as long as possible. And I think we are undermining the power and potential that these young minds and souls and the play that is so natural part of their lives has for the future and our futures as well. So, if you want to do one thing that Finland is doing, inspired by Finland, I would, if I would be advising anybody here, I would say that let's sit down and think about how can we make sure that every child in Thailand can be a child and can have this feeling that I can be who I am as long as possible before they go to school. Because the school, when the children go to school, the school is beginning to shape them to something else, and that's what Finland is doing, and that's the most beautiful aspect of our education system.
ถึงแม้ว่าระบบการศึกษาของฟินแลนด์ค่อนข้างจะสวนทางกับระบบการศึกษาของประเทศอื่นๆในโลกแต่ฟินแลนด์ก็ยังยึดมั่นในวิถีของตัวเองฟินแลนด์จะไม่เน้นการอัดเนื้อหาวิชาการให้กับเด็กแต่เน้นที่จะทำให้เด็กมีส่วนร่วมในโรงเรียนและเกิดความรู้สึกอยากเรียนรู้ที่สำคัญก็คือการปล่อยให้เด็กได้เป็นเด็กนานที่สุดเท่าที่จะเป็นไปได้เหล่านี้คือแนวคิดที่น่าสนใจของระบบการศึกษาในฟินแลนด์ซึ่งมุ่งหวังให้เด็กทุกคนมีความสุขและค้นพบว่าตัวเองชอบอะไรและอยากเป็นอะไรในอนาคตค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ